What is Marcus Aurelius' legacy? Marcus Aurelius' career was more or less a failure, and his death marked the end of the Pax Romana. Although his political legacy was negative, his real legacy lies in the writings which remain both popular and influential today. Marcus Aurelius' most important legacy was his contribution to philosophy, which included his ideas about living the good life, the pursuit of justice, and the pursuit of piety. Point 1. Living the good life. What is the good life according to Marcus Aurelius? The good life to Marcus Aurelius was living and loving the world as it is now, and not being impressed by labels, but accepting the cycle of life. Loving the world as it is rather than how you wish it would be. Humans always want to extend their lives, but this argues that this is futile. Marcus said that living 3,000 years versus 30,000 years would be the same life, that a man and what he can do in his life is all the same. So even having the longest life versus having the shortest life would be the same. A quote from Ecclesiastes 1:9 says, quote, "What has been done will be again. What has been done will be done again." End quote. So this is the natural pattern of life that repeats over and over again. Loving a natural life means that loving the fact that you are only temporarily alive and that you will not live forever. Marcus argues that we need to seek things that naturally make us better, which is being temperate, courageous, and being free. Living without being impressed by labels. Here Marcus is trying to correctly appreciate the value of things at its true value based on what it truly is at its core. Living according to nature. This means that there is time for everything, to born, to die, to kill, to heal, etc. Being healthy as a child is according to nature because it is the natural habit for young people to be well. Thus, being 130 years old and running marathons is against nature and will not be a good worthy pursuit. Marcus says nature's ways are superior to personal needs, and resistance would equal harm. Point 2. The pursuit of justice. Loving the cosmopolis. Marcus teaches us to be concerned with two things, acting justly and loving our lot in life. He fleshes out that acting justly in terms of acting communally and adds that we should do well for all humanity, and we as citizens should have a duty to contribute to the welfare, to the whole cosmopolis. He sees that communal goal determines the indifference rather than a virtue, with the result one should aim for to bring about an indifference for the whole, as which is a part. He writes by interest he means immediately, things that even though food and hunger are not good or evil. A Stoic will give food rather than a lecture to a hungry person, even though it is unlikely to really improve their life. A quote from Dr. Parker says, quote, "Marcus simply does that there is any conflict between the good life, the good of the individual, and the good of the whole community, of which the individual is part." End quote. Point 3. The pursuit of piety. Roman piety and Aurelius' philosophy was rooted in the idea of community mindedness, by learning from others and providing in providence and naturalism. Marcus Aurelius learned from others, for examples, from Sextus. He learned sympathy from his adopted dad, and he learned hard work and persistence, etc. Providence versus naturalism. Nature is satisfied with itself when it goes well, when it directly impulses to communal actions, and welcomes everything appointed to it by common nature. The key idea of piety is that the cosmos is providentially designed. The parts are as good as they can, so we should accept it if we want to take it. Marcus remains a pious person and welcomes whatever happens and will not and accepts it and will not complain. A quote from Proverbs 11:14 says, quote, "For lack of guidance a nation falls, but victory is won through many adversities." So, although Marcus Aurelius' career was more or less a failure and his death marked the end of the Pax Romana, although his political legacy was negative, his real legacy was in the writings which remain both popular and influential today. Marcus Aurelius' most important legacy was his contribution to philosophy, which included the ideas about living the good life, the pursuit of justice, and the pursuit of piety. Thank you.